My name is Amber, and I'm 32 years old. My older sister Jessica just announced she's pregnant with her fourth child, and somehow this became my problem overnight. Jessica has always been the golden child in our family, getting whatever she wants with a snap of her fingers. But her latest demand left me speechless. "The kids will move in with you until I give birth," she declared, not asked. 3 kids, 7 months, my tiny apartment. I couldn't believe her entitlement. Before I dive into this family drama, let me know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you've ever had to set boundaries with entitled family members. Growing up with Jessica was like living in the shadow of a supernova. 2 years older than me, she was the center of our family universe. Our parents attended every dance recital, softball game, and science fair she participated in, while my achievements were acknowledged with a distracted, "That's nice, honey." Jessica was the homecoming queen, valedictorian, and the girl who got into an Ivy League college on a partial scholarship. I learned early on that my role in the family was supporting actress to her leading lady. This pattern continued into adulthood. When Jessica got married to Mark at 26, my parents spent their entire savings on her dream wedding. 2 years later, when I graduated with my master's degree, I got a card and dinner at Olive Garden. Don't get me wrong, I love breadsticks, but the disparity was hard to ignore. Jessica's first pregnancy announcement was treated like a royal proclamation. My parents immediately converted their home office into a nursery and volunteered to babysit whenever needed. Then came Tyler, a bright-eyed boy with his father's dimples and his mother's commanding presence. Even at 9, Tyler carries himself with the confidence of someone who knows he's the firstborn grandson and family favorite. 2 years after Tyler, Mia arrived. She's now 6, a quiet, bookish girl who reminds me of myself at that age. Then came Ethan, the 3-year-old tornado who can dismantle a living room in under 5 minutes. The kids are sweet, but being around all 3 simultaneously feels like supervising a small, chaotic circus. I love my niece and nephews, I truly do. I've stepped up for emergency babysitting, taken them for weekend adventures when Jessica needed me time, and never missed a birthday. But there's a vast difference between being the fun aunt who returns the children after an ice cream-fueled afternoon and becoming their full-time guardian. My life has taken a different path than my sister's. After college, I focused on building my career in marketing. 6 months ago, I was promoted to senior marketing manager at a growing tech firm. The promotion came with a significant raise, but also longer hours and more responsibility. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in the city, a 20-minute drive from Jessica's 4-bedroom suburban home. My space is my sanctuary, minimalist, organized, and blissfully child-proofed. Jessica, meanwhile, transformed from golden child to domestic empress. She married Mark, a sales executive who travels frequently for work. Their house is picture-perfect, like something from a home decor magazine, despite having 3 children. Jessica doesn't work outside the home, focusing instead on raising the kids and maintaining her image as the perfect mother and housewife. Our relationship as adults has been largely transactional. Jessica calls when she needs something: babysitting, alone until Mark's next commission check, or someone to listen to her complaints about how hard motherhood is while I prepare dinner after a 10-hour workday. I've maintained the peace, playing my supportive role, because confronting Jessica inevitably leads to family drama. Our parents, now in their 60s, remain firmly in Jessica's corner. Dad retired from his accounting job 3 years ago, and Mom has always been a homemaker. They live 15 minutes from Jessica's house and are deeply involved in their grandchildren's lives. Whenever there's tension between Jessica and me, they intervene, always on her behalf. That's just how Jessica is, or family helps family are their standard responses to her demands. I've tried establishing boundaries before. Last Christmas, I declined hosting the family gathering at my apartment, explaining that the space was too small for 14 people. Jessica called me selfish, and my parents showed up at my door anyway, bearing food and gifts and expectations. I gave in, as I usually do, and spent the holiday squashed on my own couch, while Jessica held court from my reading chair. This pattern has defined our relationship for years. Jessica takes, I give, and the family harmony depends on this imbalance. But there's only so much one person can give before reaching a breaking point. I just never expected Jessica's fourth pregnancy to be what finally pushed me over the edge. It was a Sunday evening in April when Jessica dropped her bombshell. Our parents host a monthly family dinner, and attendance is mandatory unless you're dying or out of state. I arrived late after finishing a presentation for Monday morning, and the family was already seated around Mom's mahogany dining table. The good china was out, a sign that something special was happening. "There she is," Jessica trilled as I hurried in, apologizing for my tardiness. "We've been waiting for you." My sister was glowing in a floral dress, her blonde hair falling in perfect waves around her shoulders. Mark sat beside her, looking both proud and slightly anxious. The kids were unusually clean and well-behaved, a miracle that should have tipped me off that something was up. Mom brought out her famous pot roast, and Dad poured wine for everyone except Jessica, who ostentatiously declined with a secretive smile. I caught the look she exchanged with Mark, and suddenly understood why we were using the good china. "Before we eat," Jessica said, standing up dramatically, "Mark and I have an announcement." The table fell silent. Even 3-year-old Ethan seemed to sense the importance of the moment. "We're pregnant." Jessica placed her hand on her still flat stomach. "Baby number 4 will be joining us this November." The reaction was instant. Mom burst into tears of joy. Dad clapped Mark on the back, and the kids started chattering excitedly about having a new brother or sister. I forced a smile and offered my congratulations, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. It wasn't that I wasn't happy for her. It was the calculated look she gave me after the initial excitement died down. "This pregnancy feels different," Jessica continued, accepting Mom's tearful embrace. "The doctor says everything looks healthy, but I'm already feeling so much more tired than with the others." "You need to rest more this time," Mom agreed immediately. "You're not as young as you were with Tyler." Jessica nodded solemnly. "Mark's company just landed that big international client, too. He'll be traveling even more for the next 8 months." Mark shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "The timing isn't ideal, but it's a huge opportunity. I'll be gone about 3 weeks out of every month until the contract is finalized. And with the renovations we've planned for the nursery, the house will be a disaster zone," Jessica added. "All that paint and construction dust can't be good for a pregnant woman or young children." I took a large sip of wine, already sensing where this was heading. "The kids are so excited about the new baby," Jessica continued, "but they're going to need extra attention and stability during this transition." Mom nodded vigorously. "Of course they will. It's a big change for them." Jessica turned to me, her expression a perfect blend of vulnerability and expectation. "Amber, this is where you come in." The table went silent again. All eyes turned to me. "I need help," Jessica said, reaching across the table to grasp my hand. "With Mark traveling and the house under construction, the kids will move in with you until after I give birth." I choked on my wine. "Excuse me?" "Just until the baby comes," she continued smoothly. "November isn't that far away. 7 months will fly by." "7 months?" I repeated, certain I had misheard. "All 3 kids? At my place?" Jessica nodded, as if this were the most reasonable request in the world. "Your apartment is small, but you have that pull-out couch. The boys can share that, and Mia can sleep in your bed with you. But my job. I just got promoted. I work 50-hour weeks." I stammered, trying to process what she was proposing. "You can hire a babysitter for when you're at work," Jessica said dismissively. "Or work from home more. Everyone's flexible these days, right?" Mom jumped in before I could respond. "It would be such a help to your sister, Amber. This is what family does." "We'd contribute to groceries, of course," Mark added, looking slightly embarrassed but not objecting to his wife's plan. I don't think this would work," I finally managed. "My apartment isn't set up for children. I don't have space or time." "You always make excuses," Jessica cut in, her voice taking on a familiar edge. "This is important. I need to focus on having a healthy pregnancy." "But surely there are other options," I suggested desperately. Mom and Dad have more space. Or maybe a mother's helper could come to your house? Jessica's eyes narrowed. Mom and Dad have done their time raising children. And having a stranger in my house? Absolutely not. The kids need to be with family. We've already discussed it, Dad added firmly. This is the best solution. It's already decided, Jessica said with finality. The kids are excited about their extended sleepover with Aunt Amber. We'll bring them over next weekend to get settled. I stared at my family in disbelief. Not one of them seemed to register how outrageous this demand was. The conversation moved on to nursery themes and potential baby names, while I sat in stunned silence, my pot roast growing cold on my plate. The drive home that night was a blur. I gripped my steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, replaying the conversation in my head. Had I somehow missed a part where Jessica actually asked me if I was willing to upend my life for 7 months? Had anyone acknowledged that what they were demanding was completely unreasonable? I couldn't sleep that night. My mind raced with the logistics of squeezing 3 children into my small apartment, of managing their school schedules and activities while maintaining my career. I thought about the noise, the chaos, the complete loss of privacy and independence. By morning, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't do it. For once in my life, I would have to stand up to my sister. Jessica called the next day during my lunch break. I had just microwaved leftovers from a weekend meal prep and was reviewing quarterly marketing metrics when her name flashed on my phone screen. So I've been thinking, she began without preamble, we'll drop the kids off Friday around 6. That gives you Saturday to get them settled before the school week starts. Tyler has soccer on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mia has ballet on Wednesdays. And Ethan needs to be picked up from preschool by 3 each day. My fork hovered midway to my mouth. Jessica, we need to talk about this. I haven't agreed to anything yet. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What do you mean? We discussed it yesterday. No. You announced your plan. We didn't discuss anything. Are you serious right now? Jessica's voice rose slightly. I'm pregnant, Amber. This isn't about you. I took a deep breath, steadying myself for what I knew would be a difficult conversation. I understand you're pregnant, and I'm happy for you. But I can't take your kids for 7 months. It's not realistic with my work schedule, and my apartment isn't suitable for 3 children. You have 1 bedroom and a pull-out couch. It's perfectly suitable, Jessica countered, dismissing my concerns. It's not just about the space, I explained, trying to keep my voice calm. I work long hours, I travel for business, and I don't have experience caring for children full-time. You're their aunt. It's not like they're strangers. Being an aunt who sees them occasionally is very different from being their primary caregiver for more than half a year. Jessica's tone shifted from dismissive to accusatory. So what you're saying is that you don't love your niece and nephews enough to help them when they need you. That's not fair, and you know it, I replied, feeling my composure slipping. I love Tyler, Mia, and Ethan. This isn't about love. It's about practicality. What's not practical is a pregnant woman with 3 kids trying to survive with a traveling husband and a house under construction. Jessica's voice was rising now. Mom and Dad agree with me. Why are you being so selfish? It's not selfish to recognize my limitations, I insisted. There have to be other options. What about hiring help or modifying your renovation timeline? We can't afford full-time help with the renovations, Jessica snapped. And the contractors are already scheduled. Everything is set. Everything except my consent, I pointed out. I can't believe you're doing this to me, Jessica said, her voice breaking. After everything I've been through with my other pregnancies, I felt the familiar pull of guilt, but steeled myself against it. I'm sorry, Jessica. I love you, and I want to support you, but not like this. I can help with weekends, or take 1 child at a time for short periods, but I cannot take all 3 for 7 months. Fine, she said coldly. I'll just tell the entire family how you abandoned us in our time of need. I'm sure Mom and Dad will be thrilled to hear how their youngest daughter refuses to help her pregnant sister. Before I could respond, Jessica hung up. I stared at my phone, my lunch forgotten. Sure enough, within the hour, my parents called. I let it go to voicemail, not ready to face their disapproval. My mother's message was exactly what I expected. Amber, call us back immediately. Your sister is in tears. We don't understand why you're being so difficult about this. Family helps family. This is what sisters do for each other. Call us back. I turned my phone off for the remainder of the workday, trying to focus on the marketing report that was due. By 5 o'clock, I had made little progress and had a pounding headache. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had 6 missed calls and numerous text messages from my family members, all expressing varying degrees of disappointment in me. I was just considering ordering takeout for dinner when my apartment buzzer sounded. Through the intercom, I heard Jessica's voice. Amber, open up. We need to talk. With a sense of dread, I buzzed her in. When I opened my apartment door, I found Jessica standing there with all 3 children and several large suitcases. Tyler looked excited. Mia seemed uncertain. And Ethan was clutching his dinosaur backpack with a trembling lip. What is this? I asked, blocking the doorway. You said you needed time to prepare, Jessica replied coolly. So here we are, a few days early. Kids, go say hi to Aunt Amber. Jessica, stop, I said firmly, as the children hesitated in the hallway. I told you I can't do this. You can and you will, she insisted, trying to push past me with a suitcase. Mom and Dad agree with me. You're being ridiculous. I stood my ground. I'm not being ridiculous. I'm setting a boundary. My answer is no. Jessica's face flushed with anger. You've always been jealous of me, haven't you? Always resenting that I have a family and you don't. Well, guess what? This isn't about you and your petty jealousy. This is about my children needing a safe place to stay. They have a safe place, I countered. Your house. Or Mom and Dad's. Or you could hire help. This isn't the only solution, Jessica, and you know it. Kids, go inside, Jessica ordered, ignoring me completely. I knelt down to their level, my heart breaking at their confused expressions. I'm so sorry, guys, but you can't stay with me right now. I love you very much, but your mom and I need to figure some things out first. Aunt Amber doesn't want us? Mia asked in a small voice. Of course I want you, I assured her. Just not like this, not without proper planning. Jessica made a sound of disgust and abruptly pushed the largest suitcase through my door. They're staying. I have to go. There's a list of their schedules and dietary restrictions in Tyler's backpack. Jessica, don't you dare. But before I could finish, she was already halfway down the hallway. I'll call you tomorrow to check in. Kids, be good for Aunt Amber. And just like that, she was gone, leaving me standing in my doorway with 3 confused children and a suitcase blocking my entrance. For several stunned seconds, I stood frozen in my doorway, unable to believe what had just happened. Then Ethan burst into tears, his little face crumpling as he clutched his dinosaur backpack tighter. I want Mommy, he wailed, setting off a chain reaction as Mia's eyes also welled with tears. Tyler, trying to be brave as the oldest, stepped forward. It's okay, guys. Mom said we're having a sleepover with Aunt Amber. It'll be fun. I pulled myself together for the sake of the children. Come inside, everyone. Let's get settled and then we'll figure this out. As they filed into my apartment, I frantically called Jessica's cell phone. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again with the same result. She had turned her phone off. Aunt Amber, I'm hungry, Mia announced quietly, standing in the middle of my living room looking lost. Me too, Ethan sniffled, his tears subsiding slightly at the prospect of food. I looked around my apartment with new eyes, seeing all the sharp corners, breakable items, and complete lack of child-friendly amenities. My refrigerator contained leftover Thai food, a bottle of white wine, and various condiments, nothing suitable for children's dinner. How about pizza? I suggested, reaching for the delivery app on my phone. The kids brightened immediately, and I felt a small measure of relief at having solved at least one immediate problem. While waiting for the pizza to arrive, I tried calling Jessica again. Nothing. I then tried Mark, but his phone also went to voicemail. In desperation, I called my parents. Mom, Jessica just dumped the kids at my apartment and left. Yes, she told us she was dropping them off today, my mother replied calmly. Without my permission. I told her I couldn't do this. Amber Jean Matthews. My mother used my full name. A bad sign. Those children need stability right now. Your sister needs to focus on her health and the baby. But Mom, I have to work tomorrow. I have meetings all day. I can't just figure it out, Amber. That's what adults do when family needs them. Jessica has given you everything you need, their schedules, their things. Make it work. The call ended with my mother firmly on Jessica's side, as I had expected but still hoped against. The pizza arrived, momentarily distracting the children, and I used the opportunity to knock on my neighbor, Rachel's door. Rachel, a kindergarten teacher in her 40s, took one look at my frantic expression and invited me in. My sister just abandoned her 3 kids at my apartment, I explained in a hushed voice. I have no childcare, no supplies, and I have to be at work for an important presentation tomorrow morning. Rachel's eyes widened. That's a lot. How long are they staying? Jessica expects me to keep them for 7 months while she's pregnant. 7 months? Rachel looked stunned. Without asking you first? Exactly. And now she's not answering her phone, my parents are taking her side, and I have 3 confused children eating pizza in my apartment with nowhere to sleep, but a pull-out couch that I've never actually pulled out. Rachel, bless her heart, didn't hesitate. I'm off tomorrow for a professional development day. I can watch them while you go to your presentation. Then we'll figure out next steps. I nearly collapsed with relief. Rachel, I could kiss you right now. Save it for when I help you figure out how to make that pull-out couch work, she joked. Those things are always impossible to open. With Rachel's help, we managed to create sleeping arrangements for the night. The pull-out couch did indeed prove challenging, but eventually accommodated Tyler and Ethan, while Mia took my bed and I prepared to spend an uncomfortable night on my reading chair. As I tucked Mia in, she looked up at me with worried eyes. Is Mommy mad at us? My heart broke. No, sweetheart. Your mom isn't mad at you at all. She loves you very much. Then why did she leave us here when you didn't want us? Mia's perception was uncomfortably accurate. I chose my words carefully. It's complicated, sweetie. Grown-up stuff. But I do want you here. I just wasn't prepared. We'll figure it all out tomorrow. After the children finally fell asleep, I tried calling Mark again. This time, he answered. Amber, is everything okay? No. Everything is not okay, I whispered fiercely, standing in my bathroom with the door closed to avoid waking the kids. Jessica dropped all 3 children at my apartment and left them here against my explicit refusal. There was a long pause. Wait, what? The kids are with you right now? Yes. Jessica didn't tell you? She said they were staying with your parents tonight while she met with the contractors. Mark sounded genuinely confused. I'm in Chicago until Friday. Well, they're not with my parents. They're here, in my 1-bedroom apartment, with nothing prepared, and I have a major presentation tomorrow morning that I can't miss. Jesus, Mark breathed. I'm so sorry, Amber. I had no idea. This wasn't the plan we discussed at all. His sincere shock confirmed what I had suspected. Jessica had manipulated everyone, telling different stories to different people. I can try to get on a red-eye flight back, Mark offered. But the earliest I could be there would be tomorrow afternoon. That would be helpful, I said. My neighbor can watch them during my presentation, but I can't keep them here for 7 months, Mark. It's not feasible. 7 months? What are you talking about? I explained Jessica's full plan, and Mark fell silent again. That was never discussed with me, he finally said. Jessica mentioned asking you to take the kids occasionally during the renovations, but not moving them in with you until the baby comes. And her pregnancy is completely normal. There's no medical reason she can't care for the kids. This confirmation of Jessica's deception strengthened my resolve. I love your children, Mark, but this situation isn't fair to anyone, especially not to them. I agree. I'll be there tomorrow to pick them up. And Amber? I'm really sorry about this. After hanging up, I felt a wave of relief, knowing the children would return home tomorrow. I had just started preparing for bed when my apartment buzzer sounded again. It was nearly midnight. Through the intercom, I heard Jessica's agitated voice. Let me in right now, Amber. I buzzed her in, mentally preparing for another confrontation. When I opened my door, Jessica stormed past me into the apartment. Where are my children? She demanded loudly. Shh! They're sleeping, I whispered harshly. pointing to the pull-out couch where Tyler and Ethan were curled up together. "I want to see Mia," Jessica insisted, still at full volume. "Jessica, you'll wake everyone up. What are you even doing here? You dropped them off and disappeared." "I was setting up their rooms at Mom and Dad's," she said accusingly. "But then Mom mentioned you called her complaining, and I realized you were probably poisoning my kids against me." "Poisoning them? They're sleeping. And why would you set up rooms at Mom and Dad's when you supposedly needed me to take them?" Jessica's eyes darted away. "It's a backup plan. I talked to Mark," I said quietly. "He had no idea about any of this. Your 7-month plan, the kids staying with me, none of it." Jessica's face flushed. "You had no right to call my husband behind my back. You had no right to abandon your children at my apartment against my wishes." Our rising voices finally disturbed the children. Ethan sat up rubbing his eyes, and Mia appeared in my bedroom doorway looking frightened. "Mummy?" Mia's voice trembled. Jessica immediately switched to her mother voice. "There's my baby! Did mean Aunt Amber make you sad?" "Don't do that," I said firmly. "Don't try to turn them against me because you're angry." "Mommy, are we going home now?" Tyler asked, fully awake and looking confused. "No, sweetheart. You're staying with Aunt Amber like we discussed," Jessica insisted. "Actually," I interjected, "your dad is coming tomorrow to pick you up." Jessica whirled on me. "You called Mark to undermine me?" "I called Mark because you dumped your children here and disappeared." I was beyond keeping my voice down now. "This ends now, Jessica. I love these kids, but I will not be manipulated or bullied, even by you." "Bullied?" Jessica laughed incredulously. "I'm asking for help during my pregnancy." "No, you're demanding that I put my life on hold for 7 months without even discussing it with me first. That's not asking for help. That's entitlement." Our argument continued to escalate, with Jessica growing increasingly irrational. The children watched with wide, frightened eyes, until finally, a knock at the door interrupted us. It was my elderly neighbor, Mr. Peterson. "Everything okay in here? It's after midnight, and there's a lot of shouting." Jessica glared at him. "This is a private family matter." "It stopped being private when you started yelling loud enough to wake my wife," Mr. Peterson replied calmly. "Should I be concerned about the children?" His question hung in the air, a sobering reminder of how out of control the situation had become. "The children are fine," I assured him. "I'm sorry for the disturbance. Jessica was just leaving." "I most certainly was not," Jessica protested. "I'm taking my children with me." "At midnight? After telling them they're staying here?" I challenged. "That's only going to confuse them more." Mr. Peterson cleared his throat. "Perhaps the children should stay put for tonight, and adults can sort this out in the daylight. My Margaret was a family counselor before she retired. She'd be happy to mediate in the morning if needed." Jessica looked from Mr. Peterson to her sleepy, confused children, and finally relented. "Fine. I'll be back first thing tomorrow. And this isn't over, Amber." After Jessica left, I spent an hour comforting the children and reassuring them that everything would be okay. But as I finally settled into my uncomfortable chair for what remained of the night, I wondered if anything would ever be okay in our family again. The next morning was chaos. Rachel arrived early to help with breakfast and to take over childcare while I attended my presentation. Mark called to confirm he was on a flight home and would pick up the kids by 3. I left for work feeling slightly more in control of the situation, only to find 3 urgent voicemails from Jessica when I checked my phone during a break. "You've ruined everything," her last message spat. "Mark is furious with me. Mom and Dad are confused, and the kids probably think I abandoned them. I will never forgive you for this." I turned my phone off again and somehow made it through my presentation on autopilot. My team didn't seem to notice my distraction, or if they did, they were kind enough not to mention it. By the time I returned to my apartment, Mark had already picked up the children. Rachel reported that Jessica had shown up demanding to take them, but she had stood firm, explaining that Mark was already en route as they had arranged. "Your sister was not happy," Rachel said with significant understatement. "She said some things I won't repeat in front of the children." "I can imagine," I sighed, thanking Rachel profusely for her help. The following days brought complete silence from Jessica. No calls, No texts, nothing. But the rest of the family more than made up for it. My parents called daily, their disappointment evident in every word. "We raised you better than this," my father said during one particularly difficult conversation. "Family comes first, Amber. Always." "I agree that family is important," I tried to explain. "But that doesn't mean I have to say yes to every unreasonable demand." "Helping your pregnant sister isn't unreasonable," he countered. "Moving 3 children into my 1-bedroom apartment for 7 months without even asking me first is absolutely unreasonable," I insisted. Mom got on the phone. "Jessica is devastated. She's under so much stress, which isn't good for the baby." The guilt trip was expertly applied, but for once, I didn't buckle. "I understand she's disappointed, but this plan was never realistic. There are better solutions that don't involve upending my life or the children's routines." "Well, your Aunt Brenda agrees with Jessica," Mom said, as if that settled the matter. And so it went. Extended family members began taking sides. Aunt Karen, my mother's younger sister, who had always been something of a black sheep herself, surprised me with a supportive call. "Don't let them break you down," she advised. "Jessica has been pulling these stunts for years because everyone lets her get away with it. It's about time someone stood firm." But Aunt Karen was the exception. Most of the family aligned with Jessica, viewing me as selfish and uncaring. Cousins who I only saw at holidays sent judgmental texts. Uncle Dave, who hadn't called me on my birthday in 5 years, suddenly had opinions about my familial obligations. The stress began affecting my work. I missed deadlines, zoned out during meetings, and snapped at a junior team member who asked a simple question. My boss, Diane, called me into her office after I submitted a report with glaring errors. "What's going on with you, Amber?" she asked directly. "This isn't like you." I briefly considered making up an excuse, but instead found myself telling her everything. To my surprise, she nodded in understanding. "Family dynamics are complicated," Diane said. "My sister and I didn't speak for 2 years after a similar boundary issue. Take some personal days if you need them, but don't let this derail your career. That won't help anyone." Her advice was sound, but easier said than done. The silent treatment from Jessica continued, and with it came practical complications. Tyler's birthday was approaching, and for the first time since he was born, I wasn't invited to the celebration. I sent a gift, a science kit he had mentioned wanting during his brief stay at my apartment, but received no acknowledgement. Through social media, I saw photos of the party, with my parents, Mark's parents, and various friends all celebrating with Tyler. My absence was conspicuous, at least to me. Then came the tearful phone call from Mia, who had apparently sneaked away with her father's phone. "Aunt Amber?" Her small voice came through the line. "Are you mad at us?" "Oh, sweetie, no," I assured her, fighting back tears. "I'm not mad at you or your brothers at all." "Then why didn't you come to Tyler's party? And why does Mommy say we can't see you anymore?" I struggled to find an age-appropriate explanation. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, but it doesn't change how much we love you kids." "Mommy said you don't love us enough to help our family," Mia reported, breaking my heart. "That's not true at all," I said firmly. "I love you, Tyler, and Ethan, very, very much. Your mom and I just have different ideas about some things right now. When will you stop having different ideas? I miss you. I miss you too, sweetheart. And I hope it won't be too long." After that call, I spiraled into self-doubt. Was I being unreasonable? Should I have just taken the kids despite my reservations? The logical part of my brain knew I had made the right decision, but the emotional part, the part conditioned since childhood to keep the peace and defer to Jessica, questioned everything. In my distress, I scheduled an appointment with a therapist. Dr. Reynolds listened to my story without judgment, then asked questions that helped clarify my thinking. "If a friend came to you with this exact situation, what would you advise them?" she asked. "I'd tell them they were right to set boundaries," I admitted. "Why is it harder to accept that advice for yourself?" It was a simple question that cut to the heart of the matter. My therapy sessions became a lifeline as the family estrangement continued. Dr. Reynolds helped me understand the dysfunctional patterns that had defined our family for decades and gave me tools to maintain my boundaries without being consumed by guilt. You can love your family while still protecting yourself, she reminded me often. The two aren't mutually exclusive. With her guidance, I began rebuilding my life post-confrontation. I focused on work, reconnected with friends I had neglected, and started a small home renovation project of my own, transforming my reading nook into a more comfortable space. There was a symbolism there that wasn't lost on me, creating a boundary within my own home, a space that was definitively mine. But despite these positive steps, I still felt the absence of my niece and nephews acutely. I sent cards for no particular reason, hoping Jessica wouldn't intercept them. I watched social media for glimpses of their lives, feeling like a stranger looking in. The holidays loomed on the horizon, promising awkward negotiations and painful absences. I was caught in family limbo, neither fully in nor completely out. And as Jessica's pregnancy progressed, I wondered if this rift would extend to the new baby as well, another niece or nephew I might never really know. 3 months after the confrontation, I was at the mall shopping for a new work wardrobe when I heard a familiar voice shouting, "Aunt Amber!" I turned to see Tyler running toward me, with Mia and Ethan close behind. Mark followed at a more measured pace, looking somewhat apprehensive. "Hey, kiddos!" I knelt down as they crashed into me with enthusiastic hugs. "I've missed you guys so much." "We missed you too," Mia exclaimed. "Daddy said we might see you today." I glanced up at Mark, who shrugged with a small smile. "I may have mentioned we were coming to the mall where you usually shop. Pure coincidence, of course." Of course, I played along, grateful for his intervention. "How have you all been?" The kids launched into overlapping stories about school, friends, and activities. Ethan proudly showed me a small dinosaur toy, explaining in his 3-year-old logic that it was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Mark suggested we get ice cream, and soon we were sitting at a table in the food court, the children happily distracted by their treats. It gave Mark and me a chance to talk. "How's Jessica?" I asked cautiously. "Physically, fine. The pregnancy is going smoothly. No complications at all," Mark confirmed what I had suspected. "Emotionally, that's more complicated." "I can imagine." Mark lowered his voice. "Jessica's behavior that night, dropping the kids off against your wishes, it opened my eyes to some patterns I've been ignoring for too long." I stayed silent, not wanting to criticize his wife to him. "I've been traveling so much for work that I missed how entitled she's become," he continued. "After I picked up the kids that day, we had a serious conversation about boundaries and respect. It didn't go well." "I'm sorry," I offered, genuinely meaning it. Despite everything, I didn't want their marriage to suffer. "Don't be. It was a conversation that needed to happen," Mark said firmly. "I've cut back on my travel schedule and insisted on marriage counseling." Jessica wasn't thrilled, but she agreed. Tyler interrupted, asking if he could have another scoop of ice cream. After Mark gently declined, and the children returned to their desserts, he continued. "The kids have been asking about you constantly. Jessica told them you were too busy to see them, but they didn't buy it." "I've missed them terribly," I admitted. "I sent cards." "I know. Jessica threw out the first few before they saw them, but I caught her and put a stop to it." Mark looked genuinely regretful. "I should have been more proactive from the beginning. I let Jessica manage the family relationships, and that was a mistake." Our conversation was interrupted again when Ethan dropped his ice cream and burst into tears. After cleaning up the mess and consoling him with the promise of another small treat, Mark made a surprising suggestion. "The kids would love to spend some time with you," he said. "Maybe we could meet at the park next weekend?" "Without Jessica," he added, answering my unasked question. "Won't that cause problems between you two?" Mark's expression was resolute. "Jessica needs to understand that she can't control everyone all the time. The kids love you, and keeping you apart isn't healthy for anyone." And so began our secret meetings. Every other Saturday, Mark would bring the children to a park halfway between our homes. We would spend a few hours playing, talking, and rebuilding our relationship. The kids thrived on the attention, and I treasured these windows into their lives. Mark kept me updated on Jessica's pregnancy and the ongoing therapy they were attending. According to him, there had been small breakthroughs but no major shift in Jessica's perspective. She still believed she was right to expect me to take her children, and she still viewed my refusal as a betrayal. About a month into our arrangement, Mark called me with news. "Jessica found Tyler's drawing of your day at the park," he said without preamble. "She knows we've been meeting behind her back." My stomach dropped. "How did she react?" "About as well as you'd expect," Mark sighed. "There was a lot of shouting about loyalty and undermining her authority. But I stood my ground. I told her the kids needed a relationship with their aunt, and I wasn't going to enable her vendetta anymore." "That couldn't have gone over well." "It didn't," he confirmed. But then something unexpected happened. The therapist had given us an exercise about identifying patterns from our childhoods that we're repeating as adults. Jessica actually made a connection between how her parents always gave her what she wanted and how she expects the same from everyone now. "That's actually insightful," I said, surprised. "Don't get too excited." She followed it up by saying that you're just jealous of her family and success. But still, it's progress. The real test came a week later, when Jessica showed up at my workplace unannounced. I was in a meeting when my assistant interrupted to tell me my sister was waiting in the lobby and refusing to leave until she saw me. With an apologetic glance at my colleagues, I excused myself. Jessica stood in the reception area, her pregnancy now visibly showing. Her expression was thunderous, drawing curious glances from the receptionist. "We need to talk," she stated flatly. "I'm in the middle of a meeting," I replied, keeping my voice even. "Could we do this later?" "No, we couldn't. You've been seeing my children behind my back for a month. How dare you?" Several heads turned in our direction. I gestured toward the small conference room off the lobby. "Let's continue this privately, please." Once inside with the door closed, Jessica unleashed her full fury. She accused me of trying to turn her children against her, of manipulating Mark, of always being jealous of her perfect life. The old Jessica might have had me on the defensive immediately, but therapy had strengthened my resolve. "I love your children," I said when she finally paused for breath. "That's why I've been seeing them. They missed me, and I missed them. This isn't about you, Jessica. Everything about my children is about me. I'm their mother." "Yes, you are. And I would never try to change that or damage their relationship with you. But I'm their aunt, and I have a relationship with them too. A relationship you were happy to throw away when you refused to help me during my pregnancy," she countered. "I refused to become their full-time caregiver for 7 months in my one-bedroom apartment while working 50 hours a week," I clarified. "That doesn't mean I don't want to be part of their lives." Jessica's anger seemed to deflate slightly, replaced by something that looked almost like uncertainty. It was such an unfamiliar expression on my confident sister's face that I nearly didn't recognize it. "Mark says I was being unreasonable," she said finally, the admission clearly costing her. "The request was unreasonable," I agreed carefully. "That doesn't make you a bad person or a bad mother. It just means you didn't consider the full impact on everyone involved." Jessica was quiet for a moment, absently rubbing her pregnant belly. "Our therapist says I have boundary issues." I bit back a sarcastic response. "What do you think about that?" "I think everyone's ganging up on me when I'm just trying to take care of my family," she said. But the fire had gone out of her words. "I think you're used to getting your way," I said gently. "You always have been, and usually that works out for you. But sometimes, like in this situation, it hurts the people around you." Jessica didn't acknowledge my point directly, but she didn't argue either. Instead, she changed tactics. "The kids have been asking why you're not coming to the house. Mia wants you to see her new ballet routine." It was an olive branch, however small. "I'd love to see her dance." "Sunday dinner this weekend," Jessica said, making it sound more like a command than an invitation. "Mom and Dad will be there too." "Will I be welcome?" I asked directly. Jessica met my eyes for the first time since she'd arrived. "Your family, even when you're being difficult." It wasn't an apology. Jessica didn't really do apologies, but it was a step toward reconciliation. As she turned to leave, I called after her. "Jessica, for what it's worth, I am happy about the baby. I can't wait to meet my new niece or nephew. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Niece? We found out last week. We're naming her Hannah. Baby Hannah arrived on a crisp November morning, exactly 1 week before her due date. Unlike the dramatic births of Jessica's previous children, Hannah's arrival was relatively smooth. 6 hours of labor and 3 pushes, according to my mother's detailed text updates. She was 7 pounds, 4 ounces, with a full head of dark hair, unlike her fair-haired siblings. I visited the hospital the day after Hannah was born, armed with a small gift for the baby and treats for the older children. The reunion was slightly awkward but mostly warm. Jessica, exhausted but glowing, seemed genuinely pleased to see me. "Want to hold her?" she offered, surprising me. I carefully cradled my new niece, marveling at her tiny features and the way her hand automatically curled around my finger. "She's perfect, Jessica." "We think so," my sister agreed, watching me with an unreadable expression. "The kids keep asking when they can bring her to your apartment for a sleepover." It was a joke, the first Jessica had made at her own expense in my memory, and I laughed in genuine surprise. Maybe we should wait until she can at least hold her head up? Probably wise. Jessica agreed with a small smile. The months following Hannah's birth brought gradual healing to our fractured relationship. Mark had insisted that he and Jessica continue therapy, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, changes began to take shape. Jessica called one evening in January, when Hannah was about 2 months old. "Mark has a work dinner tomorrow night. I was wondering if you might come over and help with bedtime. All 4 kids at once is a lot." The request was casual, almost hesitant, nothing like the entitled demands of the past. More importantly, it was reasonable. An evening helping with the kids was something I could happily accommodate. "I'd love to," I told her. "What time should I come over?" That evening turned into a regular arrangement. I would help with the children 1 night a week, giving Jessica a break and allowing me to build relationships with all 4 of my nieces and nephews. We established clear expectations and boundaries, and to my ongoing surprise, Jessica respected them. During one such evening, after the children were finally asleep, Jessica and I sat in her kitchen drinking tea. Hannah dozed in her bassinet nearby. "Our therapist says I should thank you," Jessica said abruptly. I looked up in surprise. "Thank me? For what?" "For saying no." Jessica stared into her tea, as if it contained profound secrets. "She says healthy relationships need boundaries, and I never had any because no one ever enforced them with me." I wasn't sure how to respond to this unexpected vulnerability. "I've been thinking about it a lot," Jessica continued, "about how Mom and Dad always gave me everything I wanted, and how that made me think everyone should. It's not a great way to go through life." "No," I agreed softly. "It sets you up for a lot of disappointment and resentment," Jessica added, finally meeting my eyes. "From people like you who got sick of always accommodating me." It was the closest thing to an apology or self-awareness I had ever heard from my sister. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand briefly. "Better late than never to figure it out," I offered. Jessica nodded, and we let the conversation drift to lighter topics. But something had shifted between us. A new understanding that would form the foundation of a healthier relationship moving forward. Our parents took longer to adjust to the new dynamic. They had spent decades enabling Jessica's behavior and were bewildered by her gradual transformation. During a family dinner, when Jessica declined their offer to babysit all 4 children for a week so she and Mark could take a vacation, my father actually checked her temperature to see if she was ill. "We've talked about this, Dad," Jessica said patiently. "A week is too long for you to handle all 4 kids. Hannah still wakes up twice a night, and you and Mom need your rest." My parents looked at her as if she had started speaking in tongues. Later, my mother cornered me in the kitchen. "What's happened to your sister?" she whispered. "She seems different." "She's setting boundaries," I explained, "for herself and others. It's healthy." Mom looked skeptical. "She's always known what she wants." "Knowing what you want and demanding everyone accommodate it are different things," I pointed out gently. "I suppose," Mom conceded, though she didn't sound convinced. "As long as she's happy." "She seems happier, don't you think?" More at peace? Mom considered this. Yes, I suppose she does. Mark 2. The true test of Jessica's growth came 6 months after Hannah's birth, when Mark was offered a promotion that would require the family to relocate to Boston. In the past, Jessica would have made this decision unilaterally, perhaps not even consulting Mark about his career opportunity. But now, they approached it as a team, discussing the pros and cons openly. Jessica called me after they had made their decision to accept the position. We're moving to Boston in September, she told me. It's a great opportunity for Mark, and they have excellent schools for the kids. I'll miss you all, I said, surprised by the depth of emotion I felt at the news. We'll miss you too, Jessica replied sincerely. But it's only a 2-hour flight. We want you to visit often. In fact, we're looking at houses with a guest room specifically for you. The fact that Jessica was considering my place in their lives, even as they made this major move, spoke volumes about how far we had come. The day before they left for Boston, Jessica and I met for coffee, just the two of us. Hannah was now crawling and had recently started saying mama and data, milestones I had witnessed during my regular visits. I've been thinking about last year, Jessica said after we had settled with our drinks, about the pregnancy and everything that happened. Ancient history, I assured her, not wanting to dredge up old conflicts. Not that ancient, she countered with a small smile. I want to say something, and I need you to just listen, okay? I nodded, curious. I was wrong, Jessica stated simply. What I did, trying to force you to take the kids, dropping them off against your will, turning the family against you. It was wrong, and I'm sorry. The apology I never thought I'd hear from my proud sister left me momentarily speechless. I took advantage of you for years, she continued. Because I could, because you let me, because everyone let me, and when you finally stood up for yourself, I punished you for it. That wasn't fair, and I'm truly sorry. Thank you, I managed, my throat tight with emotion. That means a lot to me. I'm still working on it, the entitlement thing, Jessica admitted. Old habits die hard, and sometimes I catch myself slipping back. But I'm trying, and I want you to know that. I've seen the change, I assured her. It's pretty remarkable, actually. Jessica laughed softly. Mark says I'm less exhausting to be around. I think that's a compliment? Definitely a compliment, I confirmed, joining her laughter. We spent the rest of the afternoon reminiscing about childhood memories and making plans for future visits. As we parted with a hug, a real hug, not the stiff, obligatory embraces of the past, I realized that the painful confrontation a year ago had ultimately given us both something valuable. Jessica had learned about boundaries and respect, and I had learned about standing firm in my own worth. The following day, I joined the family at the airport for final goodbyes. Tyler, now 10, promised to call me every weekend to tell me about his new school. Mia hugged me tightly and made me promise to attend her winter ballet recital, for which I immediately bought a plane ticket on my phone. Ethan, still a bundle of energy at 4, made me promise to send him pictures of dinosaurs. Mark thanked me for being part of their village, a phrase that would have seemed hollow a year ago but now carried genuine meaning. And Jessica, holding Hannah on her hip, pulled me aside for one last conversation. You know what the therapist told me recently? She asked. She said that sometimes the people who frustrate us the most are the ones we need the most. They challenge us to be better. Pretty wise, I acknowledged. You challenged me when no one else would, Jessica continued, and even though I fought it every step of the way, I needed that. So thank you. You're welcome, I said, feeling a sense of closure. Though I have to say, I prefer this version of challenging each other, the one where we actually like each other at the end. Jessica smiled. Me too. See you at Thanksgiving? Wouldn't miss it, I promised. As I watched their plane take off from the terminal window, I reflected on the journey of the past year. A family crisis had exposed long-standing dysfunctional patterns, but instead of destroying us, it had ultimately led to growth and healing. By standing firm in my boundaries, I had not only preserved my own well-being, but had inadvertently given my sister the push she needed to address her own issues. Sometimes saying no to others is saying yes to yourself, and sometimes That no is exactly what everyone needed all along. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with a family member? How did it turn out in your situation? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful. Subscribe for more real-life stories and share with someone who might be struggling with family boundaries. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, standing up for yourself doesn't mean you don't love your family. Sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do.